welcome. Let's get started. This is the Multimodal AI Revolution panel. We have a very exciting conversation for you here today. We'll be discussing what's coming up next for multimodal AI. A quick definition for multimodal AI is it's a. I think that worked actually. All right. So in this conversation, we'll be covering what multimodal AI is, whether it can augment human lives, how wearables can leverage it, and we'll also discuss some ethical and technical challenges that surround the space. A quick definition for multimodal AI is it's a machine learning model that's capable of processing images, videos, and text, and it can do other forms of modality as well. An example of this currently is using GPT Vision, where you can give it a picture of the ingredients you have access to, and it can create a recipe for you. So let's get started. Let's do a quick round of introductions. Introduce yourself, what are you working on, and what is one ability of multimodal AI that you find most exciting? Let's start with you.
Yeah, absolutely. My name is Tyson. I'm one of the co-founders of Evoca AI. It was actually a company that my co-founder Porv and I started a bit over 2 years ago. We were students at MIT over 7-8 years ago, class of 2017, and actually did a lot of research at the Media Lab. So great to be back today. Evoca leverages voice AI to build the world's most advanced receptionist for a lot of antiquated industries, including home services. So these are electricians, plumbers, HVAC, the people that you probably think would be the last people to be utilizing AI. That's kind of what we're working on in a nutshell. And in terms of multimodal, I think the area that I'm most excited about is the ability to actually incorporate not just text, but the emotional aspect, and understand, because in the world of HVAC and plumbing, it's not just customer service you're dealing with. You actually need to make a sale, and in order to make a sale and be convincing, we need AI that can not just understand what people are saying, but the nonverbal stuff and the stuff around what they actually mean. Because that's actually a lot of where the interesting parts are.
James.
Hey everyone, I'm James, currently running DevX, Developer Relations at 12 Labs, and our company is building multimodal AI for video understanding. Back to Ayush's definition of multimodal, right? Just like how, like the sales baby trying to acquire knowledge, they read the text, they hear sounds, feel the emotion, smell the odors, right? So all these different sense and modalities coming in. We're trying to build the type of foundation models that are doing the same, interpreting the visual element, the speech element, as well as the text element inside the video, and then come up with a comprehensive representation of that video. If you think about the type of data in the world, I'd say like more than 80% is unstructured data. More than 80% is actually video data. And unlike text and image, video is very challenging thing to tackle because of the temporal dimension, how things move over time, the consistency between visual and speech and text. So we're trying to build the type of AI that can tackle this challenging theoretical problem. In terms of use cases, I think we have a lot of different verticals, ranging from sports to media and entertainment to e-learning, and even like security, surveillance, healthcare. People building video search to find interesting moment in like a football game or a baseball game. They use our tool to like quickly edit video to make new TV show or a movie's trailer. They even use our tool to like find weapons, violence on body cam footage of the police. So I think any industry that require a lot of video data can benefit from the type of multimodal understanding that we do.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yep.
Is that working? My name is Lexi Mills. I'm a digital communications specialist. We focus on emerging technology, so anything where there isn't a word or people aren't searching for a word, it's our job to help people use the word, understand it. On the other side of what we do, we have a foundation that looks a lot at digital ethics and more recently in digital forensics. So after the last 3-4 years, we've been using our skills in an inverse way, to mine data and information for different types of abuse cases, which are typically quite hard to prosecute. Whereas now we can get huge amounts of data using free off-the-shelf AI tools to be able to prosecute cases that previously would have just slipped under the radar due to lack of evidence.
Hey everyone, my name is Apoorv. I'm the other co-founder of Avoca that Tyson previously mentioned. So yeah, just to recap, we're like a receptionist for these home service businesses. I think Tyson covered most of it on I think what's exciting and what we're actually working on. I would say the big thing to maybe emphasize around where AI is headed now, it's kind of like we've always seen a lot of these customer support startups working in AI, infiltrating so many different companies. What we are working on Avoca, and I think what we're starting to see happen more, is how that can infiltrate sales. Sales requires a lot more emotions, it requires a lot more understanding of the human nature. And I don't think AI can do all of sales, but it can significantly improve it. And so, yeah, that's essentially what we're working on. It's quite exciting.
Very exciting. James, so you work for a company called 12 Labs. It basically helps understand video. So right now, if I go to YouTube and I do a search, it's semantic, and I try to find the exact transcript or find the keyword. But what your company does is it finds snippets from the video. So I can just ask and be like, where was that robot? Which part of the movie did that robot come in? And 12 Labs will help me identify it. Is that correct?
Yeah, that's correct. I think our hypothesis is like video understanding has not evolved a lot over the past decade. Like the way research tackle that is they view specific computer vision optimized for a very specific task, like keeper estimation, object detection, semantic segmentation, etc. And they generate like metadata or tags from the video, and then when they say perform search, they actually do keyword search or metadata search based on that tags or transcript. But that cannot capture the visual element of the video, and also maybe can totally disconnect it from what's happening. And so with the rise of like transformer and the versatility of like multimodal data, we can create basically embeddings from this video, which is like a vector representation of the video content. And when you perform search, you actually do semantic search on that video embedding space, and the result is much more holistic and native to the way models learn. So I think that's the future. Like just like how transformer transformed NLP, we're seeing the same thing happening with video transformer transforming video understanding.
Awesome. And Tyson, so this ties to the work you guys are doing where you're trying to identify nonverbal communication. I read a stat somewhere that said 80% of communication is nonverbal. So the way I'm moving my hands, the way you're looking, your facial features changing, etc. Is this are you capturing the video footage as well? Because I know right now you're doing just voice calls, but at some point you plan to capture video footage as well. Use something like 12 Labs to get that visual context for emotional intelligence.
Yeah, so right now we're primarily or almost exclusively working purely in the voice realm because remember, like most of our customers are antiquated industry folks like home services, and they unfortunately don't have the luxury of getting their customers to call in on Zoom, and so it's all purely phone communication. But even within phone communication, there's so much that is not captured just simply from transcribing that and analyzing the words. There's the tonality, whether the customer is angry, upset. One thing that we're really keen on is kind of understanding, at the beginning of the call, measuring the customer sentiment, and then seeing what the customer sentiment is at the end of the call, and seeing what that delta is. And that's a good metric for us to determine whether or not we did a good job with improving the customer's day and talking to them. So
this is for you, Apoorv, and for you, Tyson, as well. We've had sentiment analysis for a while, right? Do you think the models now have just made it 10 times better? What is the difference you're seeing with what's happening now versus the sentiment analysis and natural language stuff we had in 2015?
Yeah, I think maybe I can add to that. I think there's two things. I think one, I think the analysis of text has definitely 10x'd in terms of our ability to do that in several years. But I think the more important and bigger thing that's going to be emerging is actually models that do not even look at text. They're focused more on the sound that the human is making on the other side. And so I think there's another company that's actually exclusively focused on this, like Hume.ai, one to check out. But essentially, what you can do is you can actually train models now that go off of a base layer where they can go and actually hear what the person is saying and be like, okay, is this more likely to be high energy or is this more likely to be low energy? And I think understanding that gives us like the next wave of unlocking voice applications.
Yeah, this is it's very interesting because Hume AI and we had a conversation after a hackathon because I was trying to build this thing which would give ChatGPT emotional intelligence, and I'm using ChatGPT to teach me stuff, and I teach myself, so I can, when I'm talking to a student, I can tell this person's losing interest or this is too hard for them, this is too easy, and I can change the content I'm sharing with them. Similarly, I was trying to use my facial features as like a modality which I can give to ChatGPT through a GPT plugin. And that's when I came across Hume, and the work they're doing is around basically giving emotional intelligence, which is like a whole set of modalities to AI. Do you think that would you be able to integrate that into work into your startup, and what are the implications of that going to be like for you?
Yeah, I mean, tremendous. I think one of the things that even obviously with a voice agent, I think one of the most common problems is that the voice agent is not able to actually understand how the end customer is feeling, and so when it comes to elevating the level to actually sales, when someone has 10 options for who they want to install a new HVAC unit, the cues around are they actually interested in buying? Do they want to hear about all the upgrades, or are they just someone that just wants to get the cheapest option? Being able to decipher that and then navigate the conversation from there is extremely important.
That is very interesting. And Lexi, in your previous jobs, you've worked as a head of communications, and on your LinkedIn, I saw this in your bio, and I thought this was incredible. It said Lexi combines technical search knowledge with psychology to create data-driven, measurable communication strategies that maximize influence on human behavior. Do you think tactics like this, where we're using more than what we naturally know, and we're augmenting our life through AI, is going to have significant impact on human communication?
Yes, definitely. There's almost no AI that isn't somewhat trained on internet data. And the thing is, Google's objective is primarily to give us what we want and as fast as possible. But what we want and what we need can often be very different. And so I do a lot of work in debt management. I'm bizarrely bonkers about how we communicate around debt. And when someone types in get rid of debt, they'll get different search results compared to someone who uses good language or good grammar. But that is omitting what level of fear are they in at that point in time. And we could be regulating advertising based on someone's emotional state, so they're making emotionally intelligent decisions or not emotionally deficient. And if we take it a little bit further, if you think about something like lung cancer survival statistics, you're either researching that because you're a researcher, or you're most likely researching that because you know someone with it. Now, getting the statistics isn't super helpful unless you have the context. There are several tests you need to interpret that data. Getting the information fast actually isn't even giving you accurate information because it's not giving you the context to digest it. And knowing who's online that you could speak to, that coming up first. Giving you a warning, actually this information won't be helpful unless you understand X and Y, means that people's entire search journey becomes more intelligent. And then we're going to be looking at how we optimize for that thereafter, because the structure of the internet feeds directly in to what we see optimizing in certain LLMs.
It's interesting. From an ethics standpoint, do you think it is right to be analyzing someone in this much level of detail? So where I'm getting, micro changes in their facial features, and I'm able to decipher what they might be thinking deep down. Do you think that's ethical?
I think there are ethical challenges to it, but I think it's also unethical to not be doing so. Right now, a lot of the ad tech is coded to take advantage of emotional states that we understand through language, time of search as well. And so by not doing it, we have ethical concerns. It's just that we're already in that flow, so we're not questioning it. We tend to question new problems, new challenges, new technology. But actually, a lot of the challenges we see with new technology have existed previously.
That's interesting. One of the things I'm guessing you've been following the New York Times suing OpenAI for using the text they've generated, their articles, to train their training data. Do you anticipate issues with Marvel Studios coming or Universal coming and going to Sora, OpenAI, and being like, listen, you used our training data to generate these videos? Do you think that could be an issue, starting with you?
I think there are going to be issues. I mean, the New York Times has quite an issue with bias over the years. And so I think there are what we're seeing people conveying as fears and what are the underlying fears. There's a great book called The Grey Lady Winked, which is about the historical bias across the New York Times. And we've seen it in all news. Search is bias. So the content it's drawing from is also biased. Then you've got double bias, then you've got double bias scaled. And then you've got copyright issues thereafter. From a business standpoint, if you want to be really crude and vicious, yeah, you should probably stop people learning from your content just to protect anything else that could be revealed within it, not just to protect your financial interests. But that has ethical implications too.
Yeah. I do think there is going to be significant change in how we process conversations and how we make decisions. James, are you seeing any interesting work coming out in this space with the new models that are being trained right now or that are being released?
Yeah, for sure. A big company obviously doing it right now, right? I think we have a couple of folks from Gemini at the summit, and we talk about GPT-4V, Sora, Anthropic, even Claude got vision capabilities. And then within the startup atmosphere, like competing with us, there's Adev, Reka, I think even Hugging Face start releasing open source vision language model. In academic open source community, I think the most popular one is Lava, and they have a couple of multiple versions of that. And I think there's new research coming out from academia all the time, and if you're interested in learning more, just trying to checking out conferences like CVPR or ICML. Those are very powerful, and I think internally at 12 Labs, we're also in the process of keep building more and more video foundation models, video language model that can enable these interesting use cases. And I think the best feeling is when developers and users actually using our models for real world use cases. And last year we hosted a hackathon with 11 labs. It's a funny name, 11 labs and 12 labs. But we focused on multimodal AI, and a lot of people like Hiker was building interesting application from e-learning to social impact use cases. And that's actually how I got connected with Ayush, because he was on the winning team of that hackathon, and we got to stay in touch, and glad to see more of those how much the field has changed just over the past 6 months.
Yeah, it is. So I'll go to Tyson and Approve next, and we'll talk about the challenges. But just reflecting real quick, James and I met at that hackathon, and we were trying to. I realized I was watching lecture videos, and I would tend to zone out a fair bit. And I realized different people have different interests where they're focused completely in certain areas where they zone out. So we used an EEG headset to measure brain waves and build this knowledge graph, and then use transformers to literally make any part of the lecture that's not exciting for the things you care about. And then that was enabled by 12 labs and 11 labs, which made it easier for us to generate voices. So, we had Steve Jobs coming out and asking us a question and being like, hey, Ayush, you're losing interest, come back in, and trying to bring us back in. So Apurv and Tyson, what you guys are using this in production for your company. What are some challenges you're seeing right now, which is, that are preventing you from making it highly scalable where everyone else could use it?
I think maybe I can start there. I think right now with how voice AI is and with where we're at with the product in terms of understanding human emotions, being able to be emotive back and sound human-like, I think the first 20 to 30 seconds of a conversation can be very well done by an AI. Like the AI can essentially understand the human's problem, understand what to do next. Like, should you be closing this person on a sale? Should you be answering some kind of question? Should you be routing it to someone else? That part, I think we're at a place where AI is actually better than a human because the AI will always pick up every call within 1 second. Where I think we are seeing challenges with us, and I think generally in the industry, is the part after that. So for our use case, pretend that your sink just broke and it's just flooding with water and you need to get that repaired. If you go call and you see something that's robotic answering you for a minute or 2 minutes, you're gonna start getting very agitated. You're like, okay, please transfer me to a human. This is a serious issue. I don't wanna waste time talking to a robot. And I think that shift starts happening after that 20 to 30 second mark. And so what we need to see right now is for the AI to be much smarter in terms of understanding their services, understanding when technicians can come out or when how to actually solve the end customer problem. And I think that change is still, I think, like you still need to be a little bit more understanding of human emotions, being able to empathize with the customer, circling back with them. And so we're quite not there yet.
Is there anything you'd like to add to this?
Yeah, yeah, I think that's the primary one. I mean, the other one is just a lot of, before I started Avoca, I was working at a self-driving car company, Neuro. And one of the innate biases or challenges is that, people have a fundamental distrust of AI. And so even, at Neuro, we saw, there were times where our miles per critical disengagement is like a self-driving kind of golden metric. There was times where that was getting certain areas that our MPCD was better than the human average, but people are still afraid because as long as an AI makes a mistake, they're upset. So we're running into the same thing at Avoca where sometimes the AI may be better at solving their problem, but because they've had so many bad experiences with AI, phone AI and IVRs and stuff in the past, they're just starting at a baseline where they have a fundamental distrust, and so it's you have to almost be much better in order to get people to change their behavior.
That is interesting. One of the things you touched on was the lack of large context models right now that can hold everything. Like let's say a conversation's been going on for 10 minutes, holding that in memory, and I think GPT-4 is like 32K, Claude is 200K token size, and now we have Gemini, which 1.5, which is 1 million tokens. Do you think as these larger models come out, the space for AI variables becomes big because we'll be able to hold all the conversations we're having throughout the day in one context and maybe do like multiple conversations back and forth? Do you think that is going to be the key solution for the problems?
Yeah, from my point of view, that's going to be huge. I don't think it's going to be everything. So for example, even with Gemini, with how big the context length is, generally being in the beginning of the prompt or beginning of the context is usually leads to higher accuracy, and there's a lot of things like that. So I think generally it's going to need to be able to consume that information quite well. So context length is one, but then the depth to which you can actually consume that context is a second. But that will be totally a game changer. I do think that there's other aspects too, though. I think with human conversation, it's not just something you can codify. It's often a lot of the things are your brain understanding. If you think about it as how a brain processes a human conversation, there's a lot of similarities from whatever many years you've had conversations with humans that you pick up on. That's emotional intelligence. That part we need to figure out how to codify that better, and that's where multimodal modality can be huge with video, hearing sounds, things like that. But that would be the next step, how to actually codify that properly into a context.
Awesome. So we are coming up on time. I'll do one final question. We're seeing a lot of multimodal AI companies come up, and this is for everyone. We'll go down the row. What is one, as it becomes widely adopted, what do you think will differentiate companies that really succeed in the space and stay around versus all the fluff that we're seeing? You want to start off?
Sure. I mean, I think many things. I think for us, one of the bets that we have at Avoca is kind of a deep verticalization. And so, by being the company that is so ingrained in home services, we eventually develop a moat on the types of data, but then also around the integrations and how we are able to fit kind of every single one of these needs, and then also the types of use cases and objections and paths that we are able to find. We're able to really fine-tune our models and just service this one extremely niche industry super well.
Yeah, so my answer is probably somewhat follow what Tyson just said. We see a lot of flashy demos on social, but I think the application that actually generate revenue and transforming enterprise is going to be embedded deeply in the workflow of those organizations. So I think we got a lot of comparison with company like Runway and Pika and other video generation companies, but we're actually doing video understanding, not video generation. And from perspective of video editors, filmmakers, our tools actually augment their workflow and help them do their job better, not actually replacing their job, right? And so come up with that positioning and make sure that we augment human capabilities, not replacing them is very important. And the second part of the answer is also around building proprietary data set. I think for video, it's not a lot of open source or openly available video compared to text or images. So I think getting access to them and more importantly, getting high quality label video data is even more important. How do we generate description, label this video data, given the challenges of dealing with the temporal dimension, etc. So we invest a lot of effort on video labeling, annotation, as well as the infrastructure to process the video efficiently. And we have already seen some of the very promising results in the type of performance that our model was able to produce, given that higher quality of video data we collect.
I think going back to your point about building up the trust, and we expect AI to perform perfectly, and it never will in its early stages. I think the firms that I see making good headway are the ones that are able to communicate that this is a process, not an event, because they will garner trust based on truth. And the beauty of multimodal is that we have so many ways to have that dialogue, and the people that choose to invest not just in getting the technology to be more reliable, but getting their communications and their dialogue with humans to be more reliable and allowing them the context for where the technology sits and goes, will give them runway. Because we need that relationship with human beings and technology to continue. And for that to happen, we need to have trust.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with trust. That's huge. Also verticalization. I think maybe one more thing to add that does probably tie into verticalization a bit is around data. Having very rich data that's important for your customer is, I think, essential. So for example, for us, for Avoca, the way we viewed it is we got a lot of data around sales, how sales conversations are happening. And there's so many nuances that are actually just different in sales than it is in customer support, which is often what AI models trained in the past. That actually makes it such that maybe the best companies will be the ones that can capture not only the nuance between sales versus customer support conversations, but also between your company versus other companies. How exactly do you handle this objection? What is the right steps to do after that, and things like that. And so that can only come from verticalization and having customers and trust.
Awesome, yeah. I think one of the key points everyone's touched on here has been trust, infrastructure. All of these things have to be upgraded. And as we see, this is just the start. We are seeing a lot of variables come out. We just saw Humane release, and we've had other variables companies announce that their own products are coming out. This is just going to be more and more important, and if something's recording me 24/7, that trust factor and that ability to really augment my life has to be present. You've just had the chance to learn about multimodal AI from some of the experts in the field, and these people are on the ground, they're working, and they're building stuff, so they're very well up to date on what's happening. So for that, I'd love you to just give them a huge round of applause, and thank you all for listening to us. Thank you.